Commander Jerk Silva sat in the pilot seat of his sleek reconnaissance ship, staring at the endless expanse of stars outside the cockpit. He had flown through the void of space countless times, yet the cosmos always held a quiet, humbling beauty. This mission was supposed to be simple: fly to the newly discovered planet Zithuria, gather information, map the terrain, and report back to the United Earth Federation. No combat, no negotiations, no surprises. Just a routine mission, the kind Jerk had done hundreds of times before. Zithuria, however, was different. It was a planet that had caught the attention of the Federation, not because of its resources or strategic location, but because of strange signals that hinted at intelligent life. Satellites had picked up energy patterns unlike anything known to humanity. Some scientists speculated it was a natural phenomenon. Others believed it might be evidence of an alien civilization. Jerk did not care for speculation. He cared about results. The ship pierced the upper atmosphere of Zithuria, and the view that unfolded outside the viewport left him breathless. The planet's surface was a tapestry of dense, emerald forests interspersed with enormous crystal formations that glimmered in the sunlight. Rivers of iridescent water snaked through the land, reflecting colors he had never seen before. Massive mountains rose like jagged teeth against the horizon, their peaks hidden by thick clouds. Zithuria was beautiful, but it also felt alive, almost aware. Jerk landed in a small clearing near the edge of a forest. The moment the landing gear touched the ground, he felt a strange vibration under his boots, subtle but constant, as if the planet itself was pulsing. He activated his sensors and began scanning the area. There were traces of energy patterns similar to the ones detected from orbit. These patterns suggested structures, possibly underground and definitely artificial. Whoever or whatever lived here was not primitive. He activated his comms and reported back to the Federation. Commander Silva on Zithuria. Preliminary scans indicate advanced energy structures beneath the surface. No life forms visible yet. Proceeding to investigate. Avoid direct contact if possible. The voice of his superior crackled over the comms. Jerk nodded, though he knew he would decide the moment he encountered anything unexpected. That was always the problem with simple missions. They rarely stayed simple. As he walked through the dense forest, the air was rich with the scent of unknown flora. The trees were tall and twisted, their leaves shimmering with an iridescent sheen. Strange creatures scuttled through the underbrush, too quick to be seen clearly, yet leaving faint trails of light in their wake. Jerk's training kicked in and he moved carefully, scanning for both threats and signs of civilization. Hours passed without incident, until a faint signal appeared on his sensors. It was weak, irregular, and unlike anything he had encountered before. A distress signal, perhaps. He tilted his head, considering his options. Following the signal might be risky, but ignoring it could mean missing something crucial. He decided to investigate. The signal led him to a narrow valley, hidden between two towering crystal formations. A waterfall cascaded down one side, its water catching the sunlight and scattering it into tiny rainbows. At first, the valley appeared empty, serene even. But the sensors picked up something beneath the waterfall, a faint energy reading, distinct from the natural environment. Jerk approached cautiously, scanning for traps or security systems. He had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving, especially on unknown worlds. Using a portable analysis tool, he discovered a hidden entrance behind the waterfall, a small chamber concealed by the flow of water. Inside, the air was cool and still. Bioluminescent plants grew along the walls, casting a soft glow. At the center of the chamber was a stasis field, a shimmering barrier of energy that contained a humanoid figure. Jerk's heart skipped a beat. The figure was small, clearly young and female. Her skin had a subtle luminescence, and her hair floated as if suspended in water. She looked peaceful, but there was a strength in her posture even in stasis. He crouched beside the field, studying the control panel. The technology was unlike anything he had seen. It was intricate, elegant, and clearly designed to preserve life. As he examined it, he noticed an inscription in an alien language. His translator device activated automatically, converting the symbols into something understandable. It identified her as Lyra, daughter of the Queen of Cytheria. They had not prepared him for this. Rescue missions were not part of his mandate, but leaving her here seemed impossible. The stasis field was fragile, dependent on alien technology he could barely understand. Any malfunction could be fatal. After a moment's hesitation, he decided to act. Jerk carefully disabled the stasis field, following the intricate instructions from the alien panel. The field dissipated, releasing a soft hum as the girl inside blinked awake. Her eyes, a brilliant shade of violet, opened slowly, taking in her surroundings. She spoke immediately, her voice melodic, though he could not understand her words. The translator activated. "Who are you? Where am I?" the device translated. "I am Commander Jerk Silva of the United Earth Federation," he replied cautiously. "You are on Cytheria. I found you here. Are you the Queen's daughter?" I am the last hope," Lyra said, her voice trembling, though there was a steel in it that made Jerk respect her instantly. He realized that the simple mission he had been sent on had become something far greater. This was no longer reconnaissance. This was a rescue, a mission that could decide the future of an entire civilization. Lyra looked at him, her eyes searching. You will help me." The light shimmered off the crystals, casting long shadows that twisted across the forest floor. Jerk noticed movement in the trees, distant figures watching them. He signaled for caution, and Lyra instinctively followed, moving with a grace that belied her years. As night fell, the forest came alive with sounds, calls of unseen creatures, rustling leaves, and faint hums of energy that seemed to echo from the planet itself. Jerk knew they could not rest here. The rogue faction might already be aware of Lyra's awakening. They needed shelter and a plan. They found refuge in a cave, its entrance hidden behind thick foliage. Inside, Jerk set up a small, portable camp, while Lyra sat quietly, her hands folded, eyes staring at the soft glow of the cave walls. He tried to gauge her mood, but it was clear she had been through much. He realized that trust would take time, and every decision now mattered. "Tell me about your people," Jerk said finally, breaking the silence. "Who are they? What is this rogue faction? I may not be trained in alien politics, but I know one thing. No one deserves to be ruled by fear." This mission had changed. What had begun as a routine reconnaissance now held the weight of destiny. Humanity had come to Cytheria as observers, but it would not leave as mere witnesses. As they settled for the night, Jerk kept watch by the cave entrance, scanning for any threats. Lyra rested beside him, exhausted but alert. He could sense her strength, her resilience, and he knew that together, they could face whatever dangers lay ahead. In the quiet of the night, amidst alien forests and distant mountains, a human and an alien princess began an alliance that could reshape the fate of Cytheria, and prove once again that the courage and ingenuity of humanity were forces not to be underestimated. Jerk Silva, who had set out on a simple mission, now understood something profound. In the vastness of the universe, ordinary humans could change extraordinary worlds. And for the first time, he felt the full weight of what that meant. The mission was no longer simple. It had just begun. The next morning, the forest of Cytheria was alive with movement. Birds with glowing feathers flitted through the trees, while small creatures darted among the roots, leaving faint trails of light in their wake. Commander Jerk Silva rose early, stretching and checking his equipment. Lyra remained seated on a flat rock, her violet eyes scanning the forest as if she could read its secrets. "Are you ready?" Jerk asked gently, not wanting to startle her. Lyra nodded. "I must know what is happening to my people. If we delay, more may be captured or worse." The wildlife here was not necessarily aggressive, but it was unpredictable, and the rogue faction had advanced technology. Every step required caution. They moved carefully through the forest, Lyra pointing out paths hidden by dense foliage and warning of plants that could release toxic spores if disturbed. Jerk was impressed. She had grown up here, yet she could still read the subtle cues that he could not. Her people, he realized, were intimately connected to the land in a way humans rarely were. Hours passed, and they came to a clearing dominated by a massive crystal formation. The crystals hummed faintly, resonating with energy Jerk could barely measure. Lyra knelt beside the largest crystal, placing her hand upon it. "This is a communication node," she explained. "Through these crystals, our people can send messages across the planet, but the rogue faction has blocked most of them. Only fragments of my messages can reach the outer colonies." Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. We need access codes. The rogue faction keeps them in their stronghold." Her courage was real, even if the path ahead seemed impossible. "Then we start by finding allies," Jerk said. "You said some of your people still resist the rogue faction, yes? If we find them, we might stand a chance." Strange insects crawled along the crystal surfaces, leaving trails of sparkling dust. Birds with translucent wings followed silently, observing but never approaching. Jerk kept his hand on his weapon, though he knew the real danger would come from intelligent enemies, not the wildlife. Late in the afternoon, they spotted smoke rising in the distance. Jerk gestured for silence. "That must be one of the enclaves. Stay close and quiet." "I am safe for now, but we must move quickly. The rogue faction grows stronger every day." Slowly the elders nodded and the group welcomed them. That night they camped together in a hidden valley, sharing food and information. Lyra explained more about the rogue faction. Their leader, a former military commander of Zithuria, had seized control using fear and advanced technology. Many citizens had been forced into labor, and the royal family had been scattered. Lyra was the only known heir left. Jerk listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. He realized that defeating this faction would require more than brute force. It would require strategy, knowledge of the land, and alliances. Humanity had never faced a world like this, but he also saw a chance to make a difference that went beyond simple exploration. By dawn, they set out again, moving silently through the forest. Lyra guided them along paths few Zithurians even knew existed, using natural landmarks and energy readings to navigate. Jerk marveled at her skill. She was young, yet she had the instincts of a seasoned leader. As they traveled, they encountered patrols of the rogue faction. These were not ordinary soldiers. Their armor shimmered with energy shields, and their weapons could cut through metal effortlessly. Jerk knew direct confrontation would be suicidal. Instead, he relied on stealth and human ingenuity, creating diversions and leading the patrols away from the group. One patrol nearly caught them when a bridge made of crystal over a chasm began to crack under Jerk's weight. He leaped to the other side, grabbing Lyra's hand and pulling her across just in time. The patrol fired, but the crystals absorbed the energy and the group vanished into the forest. Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide. "You are clever, human," she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. Jerk smiled faintly. "We have to be. Out here, mistakes can be deadly." Lyra knelt, touching the ground as if sensing something beneath it. "There are tunnels here," she said. "Secret passages used by my ancestors. We can use them to enter the city unseen. We take only what we need and strike strategically. It is about making the right choices." They reached the entrance to the tunnels hidden beneath a cluster of crystal spires. Lyra placed her hand on a crystal, and the entrance opened silently, revealing a dark passage. They entered cautiously, feeling the cool air and the faint hum of ancient energy. Inside, the tunnels twisted and turned, lined with crystalline walls that seemed to pulse with life. Lyra whispered, explaining that these tunnels had been built centuries ago to allow safe movement across the planet. Few Zithurians knew of their full extent. As they moved deeper, they encountered signs of life, small camps of Zithurians hiding from the rogue faction. Each encounter strengthened their alliance. Jerk realized that humans had a way of inspiring trust even across species, and Lyra's leadership gave them hope. Together, they were building a force capable of challenging the rogue faction. At one point, they paused to rest in a cavern filled with glowing crystals. Lyra looked at Jerk, her face serious. "Do you know why I trust you?" "Because you risked your life to save me," she said simply. "Not because you were ordered to, not because of duty, but because you chose to. Humans, you have courage I have not seen in anyone else. Leadership is in your blood, Lyra. You will restore your people, but you must first believe in yourself." Along the way, Jerk taught Lyra basic survival tactics, how to read sensors and ways to use the tunnels strategically. In return, she taught him about Zithuria's unique energy sources, hidden pathways, and the culture of her people. By dawn, they reached the edge of a canyon that led toward the rogue faction city. The tunnels ended here, leaving them exposed. Jerk surveyed the landscape. Patrols moved like shadows, and energy shields glimmered faintly around structures in the distance. The city seemed impregnable. Lyra took a deep breath, her violet eyes reflecting both fear and determination. "This is where the real test begins," she said. Jerk nodded. "Yes, but we are not alone anymore. Your people are out there, waiting for the signal. And together we can turn the tide. Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We adapt, we think, and we survive. That is what makes us strong." Their alliance, forged in courage and trust, would soon test not just their strength, but the power of hope itself. The mission had grown far beyond observation. It was now the beginning of a battle that would determine the future of Zithuria, and perhaps the galaxy. Jerk Silva understood this fully, and for the first time, he felt the weight and meaning of what it meant to be human in a universe filled with possibilities and dangers. The sun had barely risen when Jerk Silva and Lyra reached the edge of the canyon. Below, the rogue faction city sprawled like a fortress, its walls shimmering with energy barriers that caught the light. Towers rose like jagged teeth, and patrols moved with precision, scanning the horizon. The city was alive, dangerous, and fully alert. Jerk knew that any misstep could lead to disaster. Lyra knelt on the rocky edge, touching the canyon floor. "These paths are old," she said softly, "used by our ancestors to move unseen. The tunnels end here, but there are hidden passages into the city." The ledges were narrow, and loose rocks threatened to betray them with a sudden scrape. Jerk's heart pounded as he led the way, guiding Lyra by hand through the most treacherous stretches. She followed without hesitation, trusting him completely. Once at the bottom, they paused in the shadows of large crystals that rose like sentinels. The patrols above were visible through the shimmering energy barriers. Jerk studied their movements, noting their routines. These soldiers were disciplined, well-trained, but he noticed a pattern. Every hour, a small section of the wall weakened slightly as energy flowed differently through the shields. It was brief, only a few minutes, but it might be their chance. Lyra observed the patterns with him, her fingers tracing invisible lines in the air. "We must move when the energy shifts," she said. "Then we can enter without being detected." Jerk felt the adrenaline surge through him. Every nerve in his body was alert, every sense tuned to danger. Inside the city, the streets were empty, but the faint glow of surveillance devices hinted at the presence of guards. Jerk and Lyra moved quickly, using alleys and shadows to avoid detection. The city smelled of ozone and metal, a harsh contrast to the forest they had left behind. Lyra led him through narrow pathways, pointing out safe spots and warning of traps. As they reached the center of the city, they found a large plaza with a tall statue of the rogue faction's leader. It was intimidating, designed to instill fear. Jerk studied it briefly, noting the architecture and energy nodes embedded in the ground. These nodes powered the city's defenses, and disrupting them could create opportunities for escape or attack. Lyra glanced at him. "We must find the archives. The codes to the energy nodes are there. Without them, we cannot free my people." "Timing is critical." Inside the tower, the air was cooler, filled with the hum of energy. The hallways were lined with data panels and intricate locks. Jerk worked on one, using a combination of human engineering and Lyra's knowledge of Zethurian systems. Together, they bypassed the first layer of security. Lyra whispered, pointing to a corridor. "The archives are through there. But the next layer is controlled by living guards, not machines. One wrong step could mean death." Finally, they reached the archive room. It was massive, filled with data crystals, holographic panels, and storage nodes. Lyra approached a central console, her fingers dancing over the controls. Jerk observed, ready to assist. The alien technology was sophisticated, but his understanding of logic, patterns, and problem-solving allowed him to follow her instructions. Minutes felt like hours as they worked. Energy flows needed to be recalibrated, locks bypassed, and codes translated. Jerk's heart raced, but he kept calm, focusing on the task. Lyra's confidence grew with each step, and for the first time she smiled in the face of danger. "Almost there," Lyra whispered. "I can feel the codes. They are ours to take." The lights in the room flickered, then dimmed as energy flows shifted. The city's defenses were temporarily disrupted, giving them a window to escape. Jerk grabbed Lyra's hand. "We move now." The energy shields flickered, creating a path through the city, but it would only last minutes. Outside, they saw the reactions of the citizens. Small groups of Zethurians emerged from hiding, watching as the rogue faction scrambled to contain the disruption. Hope was visible in their eyes. Jerk realized that their small action had inspired resistance. Humanity's ability to adapt and act decisively had tipped the balance. They led the citizens to the canyon edge, where the forest awaited. Jerk's heart swelled with pride and caution. This was only the beginning. The rogue faction would regroup, and they had to prepare for the next move. That night, as they camped in the forest, Lyra examined the data crystal. "With these codes, we can disable the energy nodes and regain control of the city," she said. "But we must act carefully. The rogue faction will not forgive us." "You think humans are clever?" Lyra proved to be a natural leader, giving commands and inspiring her people. Each day, their confidence grew. Jerk marveled at the alliance forming before him. Humans had arrived as strangers, yet they had become the spark that ignited hope. Lyra's people, once scattered and afraid, began to see a future where they could reclaim their home. One night, as they rested, Lyra spoke quietly. "I was scared before. I did not know if I could lead my people, but you showed me that courage is not about strength. It is about choice." They had faced danger together, relied on each other, and discovered strengths they did not know they had. Humanity had proven its value once more, not just in technology, but in courage, ingenuity, and compassion. As the city lights glimmered in the distance, still partially controlled by the rogue faction, Jerk knew the next phase would be the hardest. They would have to confront the enemy directly, test their plans under fire, and rely on every skill they had learned. But for the first time, he felt a quiet confidence. Humanity had a place here, not as conquerors but as partners in hope and freedom. Lyra's people could rise again, and he would help them. That was the mission now. Not simple reconnaissance, not just survival, but shaping the future of an entire civilization. And as the first stars of night appeared above Zethuria, Jerk Silva, a human, and Lyra, an alien princess, prepared to lead a rebellion that would change their world forever. The battle was coming, and they were ready. The morning sun broke over Zethuria, casting long shadows across the forest and canyon that had become a temporary base for Lyra and Jerk. The air was filled with tension, yet also with a quiet sense of purpose. Today, they would move beyond planning and preparation. Today, they would reclaim the city from the rogue faction. Jerk reviewed the strategy one last time. The data crystal they had recovered from the archive contained the codes to the energy nodes powering the city's defenses. With these, they could disrupt the shields and open paths for the Zethurians who had hidden in the tunnels and forest. Timing was crucial. If the rogue faction restored power before the citizens moved, the operation would fail. Lyra gathered the Zethurian volunteers, now numbering several dozen. Though inexperienced in battle, their courage was evident. Jerk spoke to them quietly, explaining the plan. Stay calm, move as one, use the tunnels, strike only when you have a clear advantage, avoid unnecessary conflict. Your goal is to reclaim your city, not destroy it. She had grown from a frightened girl into a leader in a few short days. Her confidence inspired the group, and he knew her presence was key to their success. The group moved quietly through the tunnels toward the city's edge. The path was narrow and winding, forcing them to proceed slowly. Jerk led the way, scanning for patrols and obstacles. Lyra followed, guiding the Zethurians and monitoring their morale. As they approached the city, the first obstacle became clear. An energy barrier blocked the main access point. It pulsed faintly, too strong to pass through. Jerk retrieved the data crystal and interfaced it with a portable control unit. The crystal's alien energy codes began to flow, disrupting the barrier temporarily. The path opened, but only for a short window. Move now, Jerk commanded. The group surged forward, slipping through the weakened barrier. The city streets were quiet, but the presence of the rogue faction could be felt in every shadow. Patrols moved in calculated patterns, and energy drones hovered silently, scanning for intruders. Using the codes, Jerk disabled small sections of energy barriers ahead of the group, creating safe passageways. Lyra directed the Zethurians through the streets, pointing out cover and hidden paths. The citizens, previously scattered and hiding, emerged cautiously as the barriers fell. Their faces lit with hope, and some even joined the group, swelling their numbers. The rogue faction, however, was quick to respond. Alarms blared as guards and drones converged on key access points. Jerk stayed calm, directing the Zethurians to use diversion tactics, decoys, silent alarms, and quick strikes to pull enemy forces away from critical targets. Humanity's ingenuity and adaptability shone here. They reached the central plaza where the rogue leader's statue towered ominously. Lyra paused, looking at the figure of the man who had ruled through fear. He is not invincible, she whispered. He relies on fear. If we show strength, others will follow. That is our leverage. The energy nodes blinked and hummed as power flowed through new channels. The city's shields flickered, weakened in precise areas, allowing the citizens to move freely. The rogue faction attempted to counteract, but their systems were now vulnerable, disrupted by both human strategy and Zethurian knowledge. From the surrounding streets, the citizens advanced, emboldened by the weakening of the rogue faction's defenses. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the crowd in her native tongue, now understood by the translator devices. We are free. Stand together. We reclaim our home, not with hatred but with courage. Jerk watched, feeling a deep sense of pride. Humanity had arrived as observers, but now their actions had sparked liberation. The rogue faction regrouped in their command center, realizing the scale of resistance they faced. Jerk and Lyra knew that confrontation with the leader was inevitable. The final battle would test both human and Zethurian resolve. They moved toward the command center using hidden tunnels, avoiding heavy patrols. Jerk taught the Zethurians to use simple tactics, flanking maneuvers, distractions, and silent coordination. Each small victory, each disruption, reinforced the group's confidence. Finally, they reached the inner sanctum. Guards barred the way, but Jerk used a combination of human tactics and the disrupted energy systems to neutralize them. Lyra's people moved with precision, guided by her leadership. At last, they stood before the rogue leader. He was tall, imposing, and exuded authority, but fear flickered in his eyes as he saw the united Zethurians and the humans standing with them. "You cannot defeat me," he said, voice commanding yet strained. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. "It is not strength that defeats you, but unity. Your power comes from fear. That ends today." The rogue leader tried to rally his guards, but their morale faltered. They saw their citizens standing strong, inspired by Lyra's words and the success of their coordinated efforts. One by one, the guards laid down their weapons. The energy barriers collapsed entirely, leaving the rogue leader exposed. Lyra approached him, standing tall. "Surrender, and you will be spared. Resist, and your people will be free of fear without you." Jerk allowed himself a small smile, proud of what they had accomplished. Over the following days, the city was restored under Lyra's guidance. Energy nodes were stabilized, patrols were restructured for protection rather than fear, and citizens returned to their homes. Jerk assisted in coordinating technology and strategy, ensuring that the rogue faction could no longer threaten the planet. Lyra addressed her people in the main plaza, the translator broadcasting her words. "Today, we reclaim not just our city but our spirit. Fear will not rule us. Courage, wisdom, and unity will guide our future." Humanity's ingenuity and compassion had played a crucial role, but more than that, he realized that courage and the willingness to act mattered most. Humans, with their adaptability and decisiveness, had made a difference that no machine or weapon alone could achieve. That evening, Jerk and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with celebration, lights reflecting off the crystalline towers. Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting both exhaustion and satisfaction. "Thank you," she said softly. "Without you, I do not know if we could have done this. Your people, your courage, and your leadership made this possible." The mission that had begun as simple reconnaissance had become a turning point in the history of Zithuria. As night fell, the city glowed softly under the stars. Jerk and Lyra knew that challenges remained, but they had taken the first and most crucial step, reclaiming hope and freedom for a people who had been oppressed. Jerk looked at the stars, thinking of Earth and the many worlds humanity had touched. He realized that humans carried something unique wherever they went, the ability to inspire, to adapt, and to act decisively even in the face of unknown dangers. It was a strength that went beyond technology or weapons. It was the essence of humanity itself. Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. "This is only the beginning. There are other cities, other leaders who may rise. We must be ready." Jerk Silva, a human from Earth, had shown that courage, ingenuity, and moral resolve could change the course of history. And Lyra, the princess who had once been hidden and fearful, now stood as a symbol of unity and leadership. With humans and Zithurians working together, the future of the planet looked brighter than ever. The battle had been won, but the work of rebuilding and guiding a civilization was just beginning. And in that work, both species would learn, grow, and prove that when courage and intelligence join forces, no challenge is insurmountable. The city of Zithuria was quiet in the early morning, a calm that felt almost surreal after the chaos of the past weeks. Streets that had once been patrolled by fear and oppression were now filled with citizens moving freely. The crystalline towers glimmered in the sunlight, reflecting a renewed sense of hope. Commander Jerk Silva walked alongside Lyra, observing the changes. Their mission, which had begun as a simple reconnaissance operation, had transformed into a story of liberation and unity. Lyra moved through the streets, her presence commanding attention without arrogance. People greeted her with smiles, bowing respectfully but also openly expressing gratitude. Her leadership was no longer a matter of birthright alone. It was earned through courage, decisiveness, and compassion. Jerk noticed how the citizens, inspired by her bravery and his guidance, were beginning to rebuild their lives with renewed energy. "Do you think they will be able to maintain this peace?" Jerk asked softly, looking at the bustling crowd. Lyra paused and considered his question. "They will," she said finally. "We have shown them that fear is not stronger than courage. But more importantly, we have shown them that unity is more powerful than any weapon." Today, those same qualities had been mirrored in Lyra and her people. Over the next few days, they worked to stabilize the city further. Energy nodes were secured, and infrastructure was restored. Citizens who had been hiding or forced into labor returned to their homes, bringing with them knowledge and skills that would help rebuild Zithuria stronger than before. Lyra delegated responsibilities, consulting both her people and Jerk on strategies to maintain security while fostering growth. Jerk found himself teaching Zithurians about Earth systems, communication networks, energy efficiency, and urban planning. He also shared strategies for self-defense and coordination, always emphasizing that these tools were meant to protect, not dominate. Lyra absorbed the lessons quickly, understanding how human ingenuity could complement Zithurian knowledge. One afternoon, Lyra took Jerk to a vantage point overlooking the city. From there, they could see the full scale of the changes, citizens working together, repairing structures, cultivating gardens, and restoring the natural harmony of the planet. Crystalline towers reflected the sunlight, signaling not just energy but hope. "Look at them," Lyra said quietly. "They are learning to trust again, and they are learning that courage and intelligence can overcome oppression. That makes all the difference. Courage and wisdom exist in everyone. It's how you use them that matters." The rogue faction, now disbanded, was reintegrated under oversight, ensuring that former soldiers could contribute positively rather than being punished for survival. Meanwhile, Jerk communicated with the United Earth Federation, updating them on the success of the mission. He carefully explained the situation, emphasizing the alliance formed and the potential for long-term collaboration. The Federation was impressed not only by the rescue of the princess, but by the peaceful transition of power, noting humanity's unique ability to combine courage with strategy and moral consideration. Lyra worked tirelessly alongside him, guiding reconstruction efforts and mentoring young Zithurians. She began to establish a council, blending traditional leadership with modern ideas of shared responsibility and participation. Jerk observed her progress, feeling a sense of pride that went beyond duty. Humanity had made a tangible impact here, but the greater achievement was watching a young princess grow into a capable and compassionate leader. One evening, after a long day of planning and coordination, Lyra and Jerk sat atop a crystal tower, looking out over the city. The air was filled with the soft hum of energy nodes and the quiet chatter of citizens settling into their routines. "We did it," Lyra said softly. "The city is safe, and the people are learning to trust again. But I know this is only the beginning. Every civilization has challenges, but the important thing is that you have hope, and now you know the strength you have when you act together. Humans have always believed in progress, in learning from the past and creating a better future. You've taken the first step. Zithuria will be a world where courage and intelligence guide our people, not fear and oppression." He realized that the essence of human strength was universal, the ability to inspire others, solve complex problems under pressure, and act with integrity. In the weeks that followed, Lyra solidified alliances with neighboring regions, spreading the principles of unity and strategic thinking. Jerk assisted remotely, helping develop systems that would allow Zithuria to prosper while maintaining independence. Together, they established educational programs to teach both humans and Zithurians about cooperation, resource management, and problem-solving. Lyra began to travel across the planet, visiting communities that had suffered under the rogue faction's rule. She encouraged them to rebuild, offering guidance and support, but never dictating decisions. Jerk marveled at how quickly she adapted, turning lessons into actions that inspired loyalty and respect. The citizens of Zithuria began to see humans not as invaders or outsiders, but as partners in progress. Jerk's presence, combined with Lyra's leadership, created a bridge between the two civilizations. Knowledge flowed both ways. Humans learned about Zithuria's unique ecosystems, energy systems, and culture, while Zithurians adopted new methods for problem-solving, communication, and governance. One evening, Lyra and Jerk stood on a balcony overlooking a restored city plaza. Children played in the streets and citizens shared stories of survival and hope. The rogue faction had been neutralized and the city was thriving. "You have given my people something they have never had before," Lyra said. "Not just freedom, but the understanding that they can shape their own future. Humans, you are remarkable. It is all of us working together. That is what makes change possible. Every world has something to offer if we are willing to learn." Together, they explored new ways to travel, communicate, and grow. Lyra continued to lead, confident and wise, with Jerk by her side as an advisor and friend. They had forged an alliance that transcended species, proving that courage, intelligence, and moral integrity could create bonds stronger than fear or domination. Humanity's impact was lasting, not because of weapons or power, but because of the ability to inspire, guide, and act decisively when it mattered most. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithuria rose over the city, Lyra and Jerk stood silently, watching the glow of life below. The planet had survived oppression, reclaimed hope, and begun a new chapter. "Do you think humans will return to help if we need them?" Lyra asked. Jerk smiled. "Humans always help those who fight with courage and intelligence. We do not abandon hope, and we do not ignore those who seek to build a better future. Together, we can face anything." And here, on this alien world, that truth had been proven once more. Humanity had arrived as strangers, but they had become an integral part of Zithuria's rebirth. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Jerk, for everything. You believed in us and in me when I could not fully believe in myself. I only reminded you of what was already there. Courage, intelligence, and integrity, you had it all. I am proud to have witnessed it." Jerk Silva, a human from Earth, had shown that intelligence, courage, and moral resolve could change worlds. And Lyra, the princess who had once been hidden and fearful, now stood as a leader whose people would thrive under principles of hope, courage, and collaboration. Together, they had not only reclaimed a city, they had forged a future. A future where humans and Zithurians could stand side by side, learning from each other, growing together, and proving that the strength of humanity was not in domination, but in courage, ingenuity, and the ability to inspire others. As the first light of a new day touched the city, both knew that the challenges ahead would be many, but they also knew something profound. When courage, intelligence, and compassion unite, no obstacle is insurmountable. And in the heart of Zithuria, a human and an alien princess had proven it. The story of Zithuria had changed forever, and humanity's place in the galaxy had been quietly but powerfully affirmed.